And hello and welcome back, season 2, episode 2. Josh Scarpello, Pierre LaTour back again for Justice for All. Say hello, Pierre.
Well, hello, everybody out there. Welcome to the continuing COVID crisis.
And I tell you what, for season 2, bringing out the big guns. Our first in-person virtual studio appearance, the Dream Team. We are pleased to be joined by two Philadelphia legends now, Mike Veen and Bill Brennan, two of the lead counsel in the case of, I don't know what the caption was, United States versus Trump. But either way, we are happy to have the lead counsel of President Trump as our guest tonight. Welcome to the program, Justice for All, Bill Brennan and Mike Veen.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
Thanks for having us.
So glad you guys could make it.
And, we're going to put this up on YouTube, and I will put the link out on our podcast when we edit this. Hopefully you get a chance to see Bill sitting in front of his fireplace. It is just a fantastic shot. I can't describe it with enough words, but we're pleased to have both you guys here. Fun fact, Mike Veen gave Josh Scarpello his first legal job. Mike, thank you very much for joining the program.
Absolutely true. He was right under the wing, but he flew away pretty quick. And I just got to say, the Philadelphia legend thing. If you always have to say Bill Brennan and Mike Vanderveen, because Bill Brennan has been a Philadelphia legend for decades. I think even possibly before I was born. I'm not sure. But for so long has he been a legend that, I mean, if I go down a list of all the cases that he's had, the doctors, the nurses, the priests and the doctors and the nurses, and let me keep the nurses out of that, but you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. You're keeping you'll get no argument from me there, Michael, and you're keeping very good company, I should say.
A World Series, damsels in distress during the World Series. He's had it all.
Yeah, the World Series ticket caper, right?
Yeah,
that was the most fun I ever had. It really was.
Bill, we're going to talk about your future as a legal TV jurist, but we have so many other, because I think you're a natural. And if you've seen Bill, he's been interviewed a million times, and which is true. He's a noted, longtime Philadelphia defense attorney, and has been seen and has been asked to join a number of people to talk about every big case that's been out there in the past 10 or 20 years. But we wanted to talk about his.
But Bill, that's not true. That case might have been your funnest until we got that call. Bruce Castor got that call on that Saturday. And actually, because I know what your first question is going to be.
Go for it,
Josh.
Yes.
Right when the impeachment was going, while Trump was still president, he had contacted through politicians and folks down in Washington, Bruce Castor. And Bruce, you really got the call unrelated to myself or to Bill. They said, hey, Bruce, we need, we'd like you on this thing. And so, I'm going through the contract, just to make sure everybody's going to get paid. I'm doing the contract. That's all I'm supposed to be doing.
Hold on, Counselor, can I interrupt you for a second? We're going to go off on tangents, but I hate to sound crass, but when I sat at the dinner table tonight and I asked my lovely children and my wife, what do you want me most to ask these guys? Right? What's the number one question that you want me to ask these guys? You want me to? Do I have to answer that?
No, we know what it is, and yes, we did, and it was no trouble. You agree?
I guess I told them I won't be so crass as to put it in those terms, but I will ask you delicately: did the witness, Mr. Green, arrive in time?
I'll punt that to Mike.
We were retained in advance. We worked so damn hard and brought in so many resources. Retainer needed to be refreshed and was so on demand. Prompt pay, good pay. It was, but so we're working on the contract.
Right.
And I give it to Bruce. Bruce sends it. It's this maybe, I don't know, Saturday night, 6 o'clock. We're still in the office. And I don't leave my office to the car, and it's all over the news. Bruce Castor's representing the Trump, and they got some other guy in it. And so I'm pulling into my driveway. It's all over the news. And the first text I get is from Bill Brennan saying, "Hey, are we going to carry his bags?" I said, "Absolutely packed. Let's go to Washington."
And Mike, that's one of the fascinating things about it. They put together a legal team seemingly of guys from all over the country, right? I mean, you guys were involved with the local guy here, but then you had counsel from Georgia, Mr. Schoen or Schoen, Mr. Schoen,
yeah, Dave Schoen, right?
And then was there anybody else that you worked closely with behind the scenes other than those people that were in the forefront?
There were 5 firms in Philadelphia, that contributed different things in different ways. One guy just got half a dozen lobsters as a thank you the other day for the, and steamers for the things they did. What we really did is we used our connections and our resources. We needed a brief done like that on the spot on Super Bowl Sunday at 10 o'clock at night, and Bill just calls, a guy up here in Philadelphia who's, bangs it out, has the staff because of his, significant appellate practice, and just had the ability to do that. So we pulled from a lot of different things from a lot of different firms, and, our friends, our brothers and sisters in arms at what we do. When the bell rings, the real ones answer the call.
You bring up a brief issue is a good point, because I don't think people realize, there's that great movie, The Verdict, with Paul Newman, and James Mason plays the old white shoe lawyer that represents the Archdiocese of Boston. And he used a phrase, and this is 40 years ago, and he says, "For want of a shoe, a horse was lost." And I thought about that phrase for the last 3 years, but for want of a shoe, a horse was lost means we get down there. Mike Vanderveen basically packs an entire law firm into a G-Wagon, a Jeep Commander, and a pickup truck, and takes an entire law firm down to D.C. We're operating down of a 7,000 square feet at Trump International, and we just assume that resources will be available, such as they have specific requirements on how the brief is to be prepared. The type of binding you use and things like that. It's Super Bowl Sunday night, and I look at these
snowstorm. Don't forget the snowstorm, Bill.
That's true. First one in 3 years.
These hot shots that are from the president of the client's team, and say, "Well, we need it in this format and this many copies," and they go, "Yeah." I said, "Well, I assume you have access to a Kinko's, or you have on-site printing, or you have a law firm," and they go, "No, we don't." So we reached out to friends of ours here in Philadelphia who sent their staff in at 9 o'clock on Super Bowl Sunday night and did these things for us, and FedEx them to the Senate and FedEx them to us. But that type of support and help was really what got us through this. Most really talented lawyers, I think, could go down there and stand up an argument. But what Mike did that was so impressive is he took an entire law firm to a different part of the country and set up shop on a moment's notice. Not many guys can do that.
And remind us, guys. I mean, like, you got hired. I mean, what was it? Was it a week? Did you have less? How much time did you actually have to prepare before you had to go make argument in front of the Senate? I mean, it wasn't very long, right?
About a week. A little more. 8 days.
Now, I had written this down, not facetiously, but one of my questions was, did you watch Trump's first impeachment trial?
Bill and I and another guy named Dave Schoen sat and watched, I'd say about 15 minutes of it.
Did you learn anything from it, or did you? Because isn't it a strange procedural kind of hearing?
We watched it just to really, from my mind, just to get the physical setup. We were fortunate enough the night before it started to get a walkthrough from Senate staff of the Senate, and assigned our war room, which was the LBJ room and stuff. But we did watch it just a little bit. and just to figure out, how questions were going to be handled and that kind of stuff.
And so now when you're meeting with your team, you're given, I'm assuming, and again, I'm one of the questions I had as a lawyer was, you've done hearings, both of you guys, all of us really, in different jurisdictions in front of different tribunals, but this has to be unique, right? I mean, first of all, I don't even know, and I've been a lawyer for 20 years, and I was reading about it, what all the procedural rules were before I had cramped. I mean, you have to pick that up, I guess, to start with, and then you got a single.
Actually, the rules were not voted on and by the Senate and given to us until about 10 hours before the hearings started. The House managers didn't give us their evidence until 2.5 hours into the first. They were showing the world their evidence before we ever even saw it. So it's totally different. But what was interesting was, the courtroom stuff, it's kind of, we all do that. That's what we do. We've done it 30 something years, but we all had different roles and talents. Like Bill, knows everybody here in Philadelphia and is a very affable guy. But what he was doing behind the scenes down there in the Senate, this kind of backroom shuttle diplomacy that's going back, even negotiating the rules, coming to agreements on stipulations. That's all backroom stuff done between the senators and the senator's staff. And so, where Bill's, I tried, I don't know how many hundreds and hundreds of cases to go down there and have to politic and be a mediator and a communicator and a go-betweener, a deal maker with the senators, on the spur of a moment. It was just really something amazing to see. And we all did that. Everybody figured out what their roles were going to be. It was fluid. It was kind of always changing, everybody picked up the ball when it was. The first day or two were tough, and we got back there to that room, and we got back to the war room at Trump International, which, by the way, was this freaking, 7,000 square foot freaking amazing, largest suite on the East Coast, aside from the suites that we all got. And
huge, it was huge.
And we had checked, and I said, everybody, keep your heads down and work hard. And I go to Bill and I go, time for dinner, right?
So how much?
Josh, I can follow up to your question about what was it? It wasn't a trial. I guess you would call it a proceeding. It was, I guess it was an impeachment. It was an animal unique to itself, but our roles changed. We didn't know what our roles would be when we got there. We thought we did. We had a rough day. The first day was rough. So a lot of things changed because they should have changed. And when I look back on it, and I came very close to not going for reasons that are not that important, but when I look back on it, that time in that LBJ room was something I'll never forget, because I'm a student of 20th century history. I read a lot about Johnson, that wonderful Caro, those volumes, Master of the Senate and Path to Power. And he was renowned for, putting that big bear paw around you and, cajoling people. So the big palatial room immediately adjacent to the Senate floor is called the Lyndon Baines Johnson room. And, we were able to wheel and deal out of there, and it just was terrific. It was just a great experience.
It must have been fascinating. And that's why when people say, would you take the case? I'd be like, for so many reasons, of course I would take the case. But it must have been fascinating on so many different levels. But one of the things that was fascinating to me, that's why I hate to sound like a nerd and start with
real
procedure.
Men eat quiche and real lawyers take that case.
That's right. Exactly. That's right. But did you think, Mike, at any point in time that during this proceeding, you were going to be the one doing fielding questions from senators at any point during the proceeding?
No. In fact, I wasn't supposed to, but we had an early it was just an audible was called, and really kind of as it's going. Bill and I had been thinking about the questions all along, but we really anticipated other people answering them. So
was that part of the rulemaking process that was voted on, and that was that they came up with that procedure that we'll just take questions at the end rather than any other like live witnesses?
No, and Bill would probably actually know this better than me because he negotiated a lot of this stuff. But if certain things had happened, there could have been witnesses after the questions. And there was something, I kind of forget all of it, right? But there was something about the need, the sequencing of closings and questions and the possible witnesses. But Bill.
There was a scenario, guys, where, and I don't want to, give too much inside baseball information away, but in broad strokes, the proceeding was bizarre. You decide if you're going to have witnesses after the case is made. It's all backwards. But right. I'm telling you, I don't care what may have been said by the other side. I am telling you that we had a stipulation that there would be no witnesses. And the morning of, the lead manager said, I don't know what you're talking about. I can't imagine such a thing. So they wanted to put one triple hearsay witness on about a phone call that was allegedly made by our client through two other people. And we huddled and we gave them a list of, I think it was 376 witnesses that we would call, which was most of Congress, the speaker from her on down. And then Mike invited him to his office in Philadelphia, and they made great hay with that. But I think when they saw 376 witnesses, they reconsidered that they found that stipulation did exist after all. But it was just a lot of that. It was a lot of that on the spot, decision making and changing of plans. But your question to Mike shows, what a great lawyer is, because he had no intention of playing that role that he did, and he stepped up and he knocked it out of the park. I thought he did. I know the client thought he did.
How much involvement did you have with the client directly, if at all?
A little.
I don't know. I'm asking you. Like Don call you up and say, hey, Mike, great job, Bill. You guys are doing great in there. What's going on?
But truthfully, some of the most enjoyable times for Bill and I was talking to the client.
Did you get daily access with him?
We didn't talk to him every day. There were days we talked to him a couple of times, and then there were a couple of days when we were in it, we really needed to be in it, and didn't need much from him.
Right.
In the first day or two, he was very, a little uneasy, like any client when they have to watch the prosecution's case go on. But it was, we're going to get there. We're going to come out swinging. So, and of course, we did that.
We had to agree, though, guys, before we went down there, that certain things were non-negotiable on our part. The rumors that I heard when we got back and, during the time we were there were, these guys are doing it for the press. They'll never get paid. Nothing could be further from the truth. These guys are Trump hacks, and they're going to go down there and talk about stolen election. Completely, totally unbased in fact.
Were you told by anybody to argue that? Were you encouraged to argue that?
No, and we would not have done it. And as far as, like being, Trump hacks, it's come out in a few articles that were fair or more, or let's say less unfair than most of the press, I think, was. Mike set up his office last year as a satellite voting registration location, filed a lawsuit where our client was named as a defendant, and Mike spent last summer marching with Black Lives Matter. Not once, not twice, but all summer. So, it's atrocious that fellow Philadelphia lawyers would attack their brethren for going down and ethically representing a client who needed a defense. When Mike got back, he was an officer in the Philadelphia Trial Lawyers Association, which, I'm not in that world because they are exclusively civil in their membership, but, he was kind of shown the door. And then some knucklehead wrote an article in the like an op-ed piece in the Legal, and I believe that he is now a defendant in a defamation case where Jim Beasley is Mike's lawyer, and people have to pay for what they say.
Yeah.
It was tremendously. We got back to Mike's house. I parked at Mike's and we drove down together, and we had to wait for the armed guard to move his truck to let us in the driveway where Trader was spray painted on Mike's concrete. Mr. Disgrace.
So,
well, my mother would say, Mike, they say those bad things about you because you're doing important stuff. You're doing good work, and you're doing, you can't stand up there and do the right thing and always be everybody's.
As far as the couple girls on the student council, I don't pay those. I don't pay those gals no never mind anyway. But they know who they are. But
well, but
I got to tell you that as far as the defenses were concerned, nobody told us anything about any defenses, frankly, because nobody had any idea what the charging evidence was going to be, and so it was very much kind of always moving, bobbing, weaving, and putting it together as we went. Certainly putting together an 80-page brief in record time with really solid results because of a strong team of people coming together. That was set, but there was so much. There was nobody could tell you what to do, and nobody tried to. Certainly from the Trump side, tell us what arguments were ours. Ours were free. We had two rules where there was no election fraud and no Rudy. I think was the
wait, were those your rules?
No help from Rudy. We didn't need him.
Did you have any interactions with Rudy? Did he attempt to get involved at all? No.
I will tell you though that we were treated like kings. Bill and I and the whole team, and Bill and I, were most prone to accept being treated like kings. So most amenable, and so we worked our tails off for sure, but we had our time where we were able to relax and eat fantastic food and enjoy wonderful service, meet fantastic people who work at that Trump International and people in his management team, just top to bottom. I mean, we had so much fun, and they really wanted to please, whether it was ironing my underwear every morning before I had to put them on, or making sure that my salmon was baked in organic Maine maple syrup with the white rice for dinner.
No, it's true, guys. I know the client, is a bellwether for emotion, both positive and negative, but taking the politics out of it, just the way that hotel is run, the guy that runs the place, if I didn't sleep much, so if I was up at 5 a.m. to start working, he would appear. If I get up at 3 a.m. to have a cup of tea, he would appear. I mean, I said to him at one point, Mikhail, there must be a casket upstairs with dirt from Transylvania. He's like, no, I like to make sure everybody's happy. And I said to him, well, how long have you been working for, the boss? And he said, 18 years. And he met a lot of people that were in his employ a long time. So
that's interesting.
I understand people have formed opinions, but we probably got a little closer to him than most of the public. And just from I'm totally objective. I went down there as a lawyer for a client. I have no political bent one way or the other. He treated us fairly. And just last word on that issue about, what we did down there. We had 3 legal arguments. All right. We had jurisdiction, and we had First Amendment, and then we had, burden of proof. And the only time the phrase stolen election was ever mentioned was in the House manager's brief and in their arguments. So, I mean, we played it clean as a whistle. So, I could understand if we went down there and we just, were just mouthpieces for the client's agenda, but that didn't happen. We weren't asked to do it by the client or his team, and we wouldn't have done it. So when we get back, and the main focus was on Mike, when we get back and there's such a visceral hatred for what we did down there, it amazes me. Although I won't mention names because I just won't do it. But there's one lawyer that was really leading the charge, but he kept his fin under the water. But we know, I know who it was, and it's disgraceful that they would represent this person. I bet if, God forbid,
He's that tall.
And the family went to him.
I got bonsai
plants. Would have signed him up like there was no
taller than this guy. Bill, wow. I got bonsai plants in my office that are taller than this guy.
Well, I think a lot of people were expecting that. I think there were so many rumors because that there were a number of lawyers that quit ahead of time, that there were all these rumors that Trump wanted, his attorneys to argue about the election and all that stuff. And I think it's really a credit to you guys and really a great reflection on Philadelphia trial attorneys for the whole country. Again, taking politics aside, that you guys went down there and you made the arguments, right? It wasn't politics. It wasn't about an election or anything like that. It was, listen, this is our client. This is what he's accused of. They haven't proved it for this reason. This is what the burden of proof is here, and this is why he should be acquitted. And I think it's a real.
We went. You're absolutely right. We went down there and we smoked them. Yeah. And we did it. That Raskin. People say bad stuff about him, but I caution them, don't do that. He's my bitch, and you don't talk about my bitch that way. But no, we went down and we smoked them, and we smoked them by protecting the Constitution, the First Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, the whole due process arguments. And now we got back, we're defending the Sixth Amendment, the chill, from colleagues to law professors to mainstream media to people in my own family. Pressured me to not do this, and
I got a lot of that too, guys. My 7 children are progressive liberals, and one works in that world, and she pulled out all the stops the Friday before that Sunday. So 70 or 48 hours earlier, I was driving home, and I thought, I'm going to take a flyer on it, and a very well known, tremendous criminal lawyer in Philadelphia with an Irish surname. Whips and chains will not pull the name Brian McMonagle from my lips. He called me and said, "Hey, what are you going to do?" I said, I might take a flyer. He said, "Are you out of your mind? You should get in that car and you go down there and do your job." And I'll be forever grateful to him for that. But we have nothing to hang our heads down about. I mean, we went down there and we tried the case on the law, and I think that's what people Pierre had said. There were so many expectations that we go down there and kind of whore it up, and it just never happened. It was never going to happen.
Well, Mike, I think I saw
one of the biggest critiques was one, you heard a couple of things. One, you heard that it was already done, that we were going to go down there.
That's what I wanted to ask you about, Mike.
Absolutely untrue.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, after the second night, chief of staff for that that guy, he comes to us and says, "Look, he's got 14 people, and you don't have him. You guys need to start showing us something." Ted Cruz came up to us. Mike Lee came to us, and these guys were in our ears the whole time. Hey, we got to bring stuff back to the voters, So that day 3 hits, and we said, "Hey, we got it." But and so I know you wanted to touch on that, but we went down there, and everybody did the best they could in defending the Constitution. We all put our politics to the side. And for those of us, who, because we had some young lawyers down there who I think, whose knees were just shaking. But Bill and I had so much fun down there. It was, you would think that the pressure of that kind of world stage would feel great on your shoulders. it didn't for us in any way. I mean, maybe because it just having Bill there was, a good guidance for me, somebody with all that experience. But it was just dang gone fun. And what we got trouble, the other thing we had trouble for was our style, the style in which we presented it. I have a lot of different clubs in my bag, and this thing, I think I wrote this one somewhere. This thing felt much more in the moment, like I needed a driver rather than a putter or even a rescue seven. I mean, we had to come out strong after those first 2 big days, but that was all very strategic and tactical. It's really what needed to have happened. I'm not sure that the defense could have gone any way. I think we could have lost the case if we didn't go hard and be zealous and vigorous with our defense. But what we really tried to do was we tried to take these legal concepts, First Amendment, due process, jurisdiction, and we tried to break them down and talk about them to everybody, not to a jury of 12, but to the world that was there watching and listening, and to teach them why it's so important that this document be held up, even in the Senate, especially in the U.S. Senate. They didn't want the First Amendment to apply. They didn't want any of the Constitution to apply. They believe that Congress, and it's an interesting legal argument, they believe that Congress has more power than the Constitution, rather than the Constitution having more power than Congress. I guess it's been a debate I wasn't aware of going on for a long time. But of course, the Constitution wins. I don't know what fool thinks he or any body of he's and she's is so great that they overcome that document.
And we learned a couple things too. At the end of the first day was jurisdiction, and our plan was, you guys might recall that almost in a pre-trial scenario, the Senate had kind of voted on whether or not they felt there was jurisdiction, and we kind of knew the answer, but our plan was to put on a brief on the law type presentation, and Mr. Schoen was going to present. So we were kind of on cruise control, we thought, and then at the end of the manager's presentation, the lead manager referenced a unthinkable tragedy he had just recently experienced in his personal life, and it was just so heart-wrenching to us included that Bruce came in and said, "Look, everybody's got a tear in their eye, a lump in their throat," and we were moved also, and the audible was called, and we all supported it. We stand by it to this day that Bruce would go in and kind of take the temperature of the room down a little, make a little more folksy approach. So we learned that folksy don't play in DC. So now we know that. And then he also complimented, as you guys are fine lawyers, complimented the prosecution, which is something most good lawyers do. We learned that is perceived as weakness. So we learned as we earned, so to speak, but we came back non-folksy and non-complimentary when we had our chance to put our presentation on, and that seemed to work for these bloodthirsty people down there. But to show really that, at least for me, and I know Mike feels this way, it was completely apolitical, non-political. The three people that left the most favorable impression on me, one was a prosecutor, and two voted against us. It was Stacy Plaskett, who was the delegate from the Virgin Islands, the tall African-American woman you may remember, very polished in her presentation. She was a real lawyer. She, I think, was a Brooklyn DA for a couple of years. She was aces. And Susan Collins, who's a Republican senator from Maine, but voted against us. And the president of the Senate, who presided over the trial, Pat Lee, a Democrat from Vermont, they were the three people, at least for me, when I look back on it, that I was most favorably impressed with. So, the three I pick are all against us.
And I guess that's a good way of, first of all, I agree with a lot with what you said about the representation part. You guys have all done criminal cases, and you've all had that talk with your spouse about representing somebody and the people that you won't. Is there, conceivably, and this is a hypothetical, obviously, but is there somebody you couldn't represent without, revealing necessarily why? Bill, is there somebody you would draw the line for and say, I couldn't?
Josh, you mean like not related to this, just in
Not
general?
related to this.
I would say to you that the best answer I can give is that I've represented a lot of people charged with a lot of bad things. A couple of times, though, I learned during the representation that I couldn't do it. There was a fellow about 25 years ago when Judge Diamond just went on the bench. Maybe it was 20 years ago. And I won't get into the facts, but it was clear to me that I couldn't represent him. I couldn't continue because I had such a visceral dislike for what he did that it was affecting my ability to be objective. But I mean, it's the old adage, if Hitler called you, would you represent him? We would all love to say, no, we wouldn't, but we are lawyers, and obviously Hitler's not going to call us. He's long gone. But if the 21st century version, if Bin Laden called, or, it would be tough. So I don't have a line in the sand. I have walked away from cases if I didn't feel, and it wasn't necessarily the fact pattern alone, if I just didn't feel when I was with the client, if he or she just weren't connecting. But no, I don't really have a line in the sand. And to tie it into this case, when a couple of my kids were really lobbying hard for me not to do this, I said, well, what about this one, or this, cases that they knew of that were egregious. And they said, but this person's really, so I had to just.
Bill's seven liberal children. They don't know how hard that man works for them to feel free to be liberal. I only got two, and I know what I'm talking about. But
Mike, have you changed your views in any way? Anything you learned from this representation? I like the way when I was going to say I read this in the paper. You talked about why, and somebody might have asked you why, and you said, well, very simply, this is what we do. This is what we do.
Now, I don't think there's anybody I wouldn't represent, other than myself. I wouldn't represent myself. Mm-hmm. I've got to want to do the case, like Bill would say. Do I turn away cases? Yeah, I turn away cases. But frankly, the bigger the case, the more likely I'm going to want to do it.
Right.
And the more important the case, the more impactful to the case, to our country. And I think this case is very impactful. If I ever got in trouble, I called John Morris. John Morris calls Bill Brennan, and now I got the makings of a pretty good team for myself. No, I didn't learn much. We went down there, and I learned Washington's broken, and I'm learning it's good to have Bill Boa alongside you, because Bill Brennan alongside you, because things are going to turn out to be a lot of fun.
There was a lot of work.
It
was a lot of fun because I enjoy working with Mike, and I like Mike personally so much. But it really was a great experience, and I almost blew it by not doing it. I'm glad that I saw the light at the last.
Was the champagne waiting for you in the 7,000 square foot suite when you came back? Was it chilled? Did you have to pop it? Was there a guy there with the saber that just came across and boom?
We actually went to Tiffany's private area for the champagne.
Of course you did.
Tiffany's private party room, the party, whatever they call it.
Well, gentlemen, to the victor goes the spoils. And
yeah,
say that's what I have to say about that. This has been fantastic, much better than I had planned, because Pierre and I usually aren't that interesting. But we're just delighted to have a few moments to speak with the legal team to Donald J. Trump in his second impeachment, not the first one. There was two. So this was the second one, in case you look back in history. But this was the more important one. having to do with all those events at the end of the year. And when somebody needed an attorney, they called and they found two fantastic Philadelphia attorneys in Mike Vanderveen and Bill Brennan, and I'm sure that the president is very thankful. But we are thankful that you guys spent some time with us tonight. Very much.
Thanks for having us, guys.
Yeah.
Well, thank
Now,
you, guys.
we were. If you have to go, that's fine. If you have another minute, we normally end the show with a short quiz.
Oh yeah, well I'm into that. Sure.
All right, and
He
then
always wins that kind of stuff, though. That's why.
it's all right.
Oh, no, I don't know.
There will be free swag that goes to the victor, but it's really you guys versus Pierre. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Do we just shout out the answers? How's it work?
No. It's Jeopardy style. So we have Josh as the MC.
Right.
We write
5
your answers
questions,
down, and then we
first
have the
word.
late reveal. Yeah.
All right. So get a little something to jot a note on. All right.
Okay, fun. So if you hand me a pen and a paper, please.
You didn't know. Somebody told me there would be no math.
You know, Pierre, you mentioned Jeopardy.
Mm-hmm.
Every night, two of my kids and I watch it. We're 15 minutes into I don't know who the new host is. Every 2 weeks they're doing a tryout host.
They just announced somebody else, didn't they? It was Aaron Rodgers a couple of weeks ago, and now it's I can't remember. I just saw it.
Don't tell me. I want to be.
Okay.
Hey, Sue.
Hello, how are you?
Thank you for the assistance.
Luna, come here. Who is it, Luna? Who is it? Come here.
Oh, Luna.
Okay.
Okay. Are you guys ready?
Yeah. Luna's helping.
All right. We're back here with Mike Vanderveen and Bill Brennan and Pierre LaTour for the quiz section. We just had a wonderful 45 minutes to an hour with them talking about the behind the scenes of the defense of Donald J. Trump in his second impeachment. And now, before they leave, in a tradition that goes along with being a guest on Justice for All, they will now compete against Pierre. Either one of them can beat Pierre. They will answer individually 5 questions and only 5. I will ask each one individually. You will write the answer down on your sheet. Then we will have the reveal, and then we will go to final. I guess we could call it Final Jeopardy.
I don't think we'll get sued.
It's a Final Jeopardy type question, but it has nothing to do with Jeopardy.
And I'll let you both know. I think I've only lost once, and that's despite Josh constantly skewing the categories against me, usually making them very Philadelphia centric, as I didn't grow up here. So he's rooting for you.
Well, guys, tonight there's a theme to every quizzo, and in honor of you guys, and thinking about what I know about you guys and that great victory party that you must have had, and wishing I could have been a part of that rat pack that was down there in Washington, D.C., defending the president. The theme of tonight's quizzo is the Rat Pack. Yes, you know that Rat Pack.
Oh, so you know it, Pierre.
Yeah,
I don't know who they are.
I have a feeling I'm on.
Bill might know a little something to do about that. Anyway, question number 1, multiple choice. Which of the following 4 was not a member of the Rat Pack? Was it A, Frank Sinatra, B, Dean Martin, C, Don Rickles, or D, Sammy Davis Jr.? Just write your answer down. Keep it to yourself. A, Sinatra, B, Martin, C, Sammy D, or C, Rickles, D, Sammy D. Question number 2. The name the Rat Pack was often used to refer to this group of singers. What did the members of the group refer to themselves within the group? And it was not the Rat Pack. This is a tough one. Maybe I'll make this a multiple choice. No multiple choice. You just guessed that. Question number 3. In what Las Vegas hotel did the Rat Pack famously perform in for years in Las Vegas? It was imploded in 1996. Little hint. Question number 4. What person is generally credited with originating the name the Rat Pack? Who dubbed the Rat Pack the Rat Pack? Hint, she was married to Humphrey Bogart.
They knew it was a she.
You know, sometimes I give clues, Mike. It's not, again, it's a Jeopardy-like quiz. Not everybody can be a brilliant trial attorney like you and Bill. Okay, now let's go to the reveal. That was interesting. When I read the answers back now, we will reveal our answers.
Number 5.
No, that's for the final.
That's
We
final
build up
Jeopardy.
suspense.
Yeah.
We build up the suspense first, okay? Question number 1, which of the following was not a member of the Rat Pack? Bill Brennan.
It was C. Don Rickles.
C. Don Rickles is correct. That was a layup, I think.
Yeah.
I had it.
I had it.
All right, everybody gets 1 point there.
See,
Question number 2, what did the Rat Pack refer to themselves as? Anyone want to guess? Venture a guess.
I think, Josh, it was spelled with a C. I think it was the Klan.
That is a good guess. That is incorrect.
I thought
Really?
it was.
You're almost as old as the Rat Pack. Do you remember that?
I would have thought that was it.
They
The
called
boys.
themselves the Summit, SUMMIT. Like they were the big meeting of important people. The Summit. Now, question number 3, the Las Vegas Hotel, Pierre, that the Rat Pack famously performed in, imploded in 1996.
Is it the Sands?
It is.
The correct answer is the Sands
All right.
Casino.
Look at that. The young one pulling that out.
Opened
This all
in
predates me by like 50 years, you know.
I had the Sands, then I crossed it out and wrote Caesars.
All right. So after the first 4, we got what's your score, Bill? How many did you get out of that?
Well, you didn't do the 4th one yet.
What was the 4th one? Oh yeah, who named the Rat Pack the Rat Pack?
Anybody?
Greta Garbo.
Let's go to Bill Brennan.
Lauren Bacall.
Yep.
Lauren Bacall is correct.
Got it.
You didn't get Lauren Bacall.
Yeah, I did. Well, you gave me the Humphrey Bogart clue.
I guess I shouldn't have done that. Okay.
Now,
All right.
Josh, I'm going to answer your question, but I'm going to lawyer it up. According to Josh Trebek,
Mhm.
I'm 3 out of 4, but I am going to put an objection on the record. I stand by my answer. It was the Klan. I believe the Summit is what they referred to in '61 when they were filming Ocean's 11 by day and appearing there at night. They said that was the Summit, but I believe that it's the Klan, but I'll just say 3 out of 4.
Bill, hold on a second. This has never happened before in the history of Quizzo.
Well, wait a minute.
There
wait a
has
minute.
been,
I'm
your
gonna-
objection
I'm gonna
has been
object
taken
to
up
his
by the
objection.
competition committee, and they have decided to give you credit for that. The Klan will be accepted.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Such
Normally,
an
I say my
away game.
source is the internet, argue with the internet.
Like doing a prelim in Harrisburg.
It doesn't matter because everybody knows everything can flip-flop in Final Jeopardy, all right?
All right.
Here's what we do. Bill's 4 out of 4. I think Mike's 2 out of 4. Pierre's 3 out of 4. You bet it all on this Final Jeopardy question about the Rat Pack. How many times was Old Blue Eyes Frank Sinatra married? Now, hold on. Let me get the music. Hold on a second.
No,
Alexa, play the Final Jeopardy theme music.
Available with Amazon.
Hold on.
Free for 30 days and then you'll be automatically.
Doesn't sound like the theme.
I thought I had that queued up for Alexa.
All
This
right.
part will probably be edited out, but don't worry about it.
We'll fix this in post edit.
We will do this in post-ed. Okay, let's go. This has been a great time speaking with Bill Brennan and Mike Vanderveen. Thanks so much, guys, for spending.
Did I put it up there?
Let's see how many times old Blue Eyes Mike Vanderveen. 4. What do you have there, Bill?
4.
4. Pierre LaTour.
I don't know if you can say. I put 5.
4 is the correct
No.
answer. Martin. Let me see. Sinatra
Wait a minute. Did he
was-
ever marry the same woman twice?
It was
Hold on.
Nancy
Nancy-
Bernardo, Ava Gardner, Mia Farrow, and Barbara Marx.
That's
How-
why he's the best.
Come on, he
That's
knows
why
the
he's the
actual
best,
name of the
ladies and
wife.
gentlemen. That's why he's the best. You're the president of the
You
United
couldn't pick a
States,
better category
and
for
you
me.
only got one call to make. Who do
You
you going to
know what?
call?
I would like to see a copy of the emails between you and Brennan before Jeopardy when you guys worked out the category. I think.
Well, wait, Pierre, you know what's funny? I sent, I don't know where it's at. I sent Pierre an email. I don't see it on there. Maybe it was a text. I sound like Jack on Trotter at the Sands. Shecky, you do a tight 20 and
Yeah.
Mr. Sinatra. That's why I thought he threw me a bone here.
Talk about in the wheelhouse. I mean,
Now, I
in
need
the
a- I need
absolute
about a-
wheelhouse there.
It's about a 6X on that shirt, Josh.
That's right. That's right. Well, Mike and Bill and Pierre, thanks so much.
He's out of here. Mr. Sinatra's left the building.
He left the building. Mike's chasing after justice. I can see
I'm
that
getting
right now.
Justice's medicine ready.
This is the best podcast we've ever done. Hopefully I recorded it. Otherwise, I'll call you guys in about 5 minutes and we'll do it again in an hour.
Hey, we're here all week trying the veal. Tip your waiters and waitresses.
For Pierre LaTour, I'm Josh Scarpello. Thanks so much for listening.
Thanks, guys.
See you guys. It was a blast.
Hey,
Take
thanks
care.
a lot, guys.
See
Enjoyed
you
it.
guys. Bye-bye.